NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte visited Ukraine on Friday, where he met with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to discuss joint steps aimed at strengthening security for Ukraine and Europe, and moving closer to ending the war. According to Associated Press, speaking at a joint press conference with the Ukrainian president, Rutte told reporters that European nations and the United States were working on security guarantees for Ukraine, and outlined two layers for their implementation. The first layer has to be for the Ukrainian armed forces to be as strong as possible to defend this proud country and nation going forward. And the second layer has to be the security guarantees provided by Europe and the United States, he said. Discussions around peace negotiations and security guarantees around the Russia-Ukraine war intensified following last week's Alaska summit between Trump and Putin, followed by a White House meeting between the US and Ukrainian presidents, along with the NATO chief and European leaders, on Monday. The Secretary General emphasized the involvement of the United States in securing such guarantees for Ukraine. President Trump has made this a priority, not only breaking the deadlock with Putin, but making clear that the United States will indeed be involved in providing security guarantees for Ukraine, he told reporters. Robust security guarantees will be essential, and this is what we are now working to define, he added.
Президент України Володимир Зеленський та Генеральний секретар НАТО Марк Рютте.
When we talk about security guarantees, let's also agree that there are two layers. Layer number one will be after a peace deal / a long-term ceasefire, or a combination of the two. The first layer has to be for the Ukrainian armed forces to be as strong as possible to defend this proud country and nation going forward. And the second layer has to be the security guarantees provided by Europe and the United States. And that's what we are working on. And as we all know, the Budapest Memorandum and Minsk did not provide those security guarantees. So we clearly know what it should not be. And we are now working together, Ukraine, the Europeans, the United States, to make sure that the security guarantees are of such a level that Vladimir with Putin, sitting in Moscow, will never ever try to attack Ukraine again.
Зокрема, у механізмі реагування, якщо на нас нападуть знову. І як вам заяви Лаврова?
President Trump has made this a priority. Not only breaking the deadlock with Putin, but making clear that the United States will indeed be involved in providing security guarantees for Ukraine. Robust security guarantees will be essential, and this is what we are now working to define.
In continuing the topic of security guarantees, whether or not you discuss...
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky suggested in his nightly video address that Russia has been purposely targeting American investments in Ukraine. According to Associated Press, Zelensky condemned the attack amid the push for peace. Just when the world expects a clear answer from the Russians, an answer regarding the negotiations to end the war, he added. He said Moscow has shown no signs of pursuing meaningful negotiations to end the war and urged the international community to respond with stronger pressure on Moscow, including tougher sanctions and tariffs. Meanwhile, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said earlier on Thursday that Vladimir Putin is ready to meet with Zelensky to discuss peace terms, but only after key issues have been worked out by senior officials in what could be a protracted negotiating process because the two sides remain far apart.
В Мукачеві росіяни фактично спалили підприємство, до речі, американське підприємство, виробника електротехніки, і це побутові електроприлади, нічого воєнного. Росіяни точно знали, куди б'ють. Це був ракетний удар. Ми вважаємо, це був цілеспрямований удар саме по американській власності тут, в Україні, по американських інвестиціях. Дуже показовий удар. Як і вся ця масована атака. Якраз коли світ очікує від росіян чіткої відповіді щодо перемовин про закінчення війни. Зараз сигнали з Росії просто, якщо чесно, непристойні. Вони намагаються зіскочити з необхідності проводити зустріч. Вони не хочуть закінчувати цю війну. Вони продовжують масовані атаки проти України та дуже жорсткі штурми на фронті. Запускають ракети по американському підприємству, як і по багатьом іншим абсолютно цивільним нашим мішень. Причому зовсім поруч з кордонами Євросоюзу і НАТО. Російський ударний дрон залетів на територію Польщі. Дуже неприємні інциденти з дронами були і на території Литви. Це все не є чимось, знаєте, випадковим, це наглість росіян. Нічого, крім сили, тиску, Путін не розуміє. Звісно, ми робимо і будемо робити все необхідне, щоб захистити нашу державу і захистити наших людей. Президент Сполучених Штатів Америки абсолютно правильно говорить, не тільки в обороні це треба робити.
On the Pokrovsk front, Ukraine's defense forces have cleared 6 settlements and destroyed hundreds of Russian soldiers. Ukrainian Armed Forces Commander-in-Chief Oleksandr Syrsky reported the information. Despite the enemy's numerical advantage, units of the armed forces and National Guard of Ukraine are honorably fulfilling the tasks set before them. As a result of successful strike and search operations, 6 settlements have been cleared and hundreds of Russian invaders destroyed, he said. The key task is to effectively respond to changes in enemy tactics while maximally preserving the lives of Ukraine's defenders. I note the effective work in the operational zone of the Donetsk Operational Tactical Group of newly created corps that have taken over their areas of responsibility and are working with a defined complement of forces, Syrsky emphasized. He said that the hottest frontline sectors in the east of Ukraine remain the Pokrovsk, Dobropilya, and Novopavlivka directions. The enemy is also increasing pressure in the northern Donetsk region, particularly in the Lyman direction. I spent the day on a working visit to the units carrying out combat missions in the Donetsk region. The hottest directions remain Pokrovsk, Dobropilya, and Novopavlivka. The enemy is also stepping up pressure in northern Donetsk. In the Lyman sector, the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Oleksandr Syrsky, said. According to Syrsky, Ukraine's defense forces are engaged in heavy defensive battles against outnumbering Russian forces, holding back their assaults and, in some areas, conducting active counter-operations. I had productive discussions with brigade and corps commanders to obtain as detailed and objective information as possible about the battlefield situation and command structures. Based on these reports, I made the necessary decisions to strengthen defensive resilience, the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Ukraine added. Syrsky also emphasized that the armed forces of Ukraine remain capable of carrying out their assigned tasks. We are defending and liberating Ukrainian territory. Units in the Donetsk region receive comprehensive support and reinforcements to achieve this, concluded the Commander-in-Chief of the AFU.